Hi you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Torrence, and in today's video I wanted to talk to you about a few things that's been going on. If you want any details on the look that I'm wearing now, I'll leave all products and tools in the description bar below. If you'd like to see an actual tutorial on this, I'll leave it linked right here above so you can go ahead and watch that tutorial. But before we get started, I wanted to make sure that I let you know to please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos. I wanted to talk to you all about things that's been going on. I recently did a video which I posted the other day talking about the difficulties I've been having with receiving my packages on time. I tried to just go ahead and say, you know what, don't worry about it, just use the things you have. I did a video before where I was just venting about my issue. I noticed that after talking about them, it just really seemed to lift my spirits in a way. Although the issue was still there, it no longer felt like it was as big and as aggravating as it was, because I was able to get some creativity going by doing my makeup, also get some content out to you all. So even though the problem that I thought was there that was irritating me is still there, I still feel better about the situation. Today I recorded a look, the one that I'm wearing. Decided to run back to the post office because I received another notification letting me know that I had some items that were available. No, let me rephrase that. I didn't receive a notification from the post office. I received it from a shipping company. I don't want to put their name out there, but they basically said they were delivering a package. It was already en route. Then I got a notification later on telling me they chose not to deliver it because of difficulties. I guess if you come from a city where it doesn't rain, that may be a surprise and an issue, but here in Michigan, we get all 4 seasons. And I truly mean we get all 4 seasons. Summer, spring, winter, fall, it truly looks like that here. In the winter, you can easily have 6 to 12, 13 inches without it being a surprise. In the spring, it can rain all day. In the summer, it can get past 90, and in the fall, you see red, orange, yellow leaves everywhere. Trees are looking bare. It's no issue. So to find out you didn't deliver my package because of rain, and then to also send me a notification saying they're not even going to attempt to deliver it again for another 3 days. So now I have the choice of either getting up and going to pick it up from them or continuing to wait. Instead of getting upset about what I don't have, I'm just trying to remind myself, one, you still have a very large makeup collection. Not only that, you still have a large dose of color collection, because I believe I have every eyeshadow palette that they've released up until these 2 that I'm still waiting on. So I've come home and I decided to just sit down, talk, play with my collection a little more, show you all what I'm doing in the process, because hey, this creates content for you all. This lets you know some of the things that I do and enjoy in my spare time, and I just don't want to let that package not coming in just get me down and out any further than what it already has in the past. I'm feeling good. I feel as if I look good. And I truly believe by just going through my collection, talking about how I acquired these items, what I plan to do with them, will make me feel better and forget about all that other stuff. So if you want to see my dose of color collection as well as how I acquired those items, please continue to watch. First palette here, funny enough, was the very first palette I ever heard Dose of Color has created, but it was the last one that I actually purchased, and that would be this one here, the Hidden Treasure palette. When I first got into makeup, everyone was trashing this palette because of the layout, and look at here. Still has the film on it, which means I've never used it. So here I am complaining about a new palette that I haven't had, when the very first palette they've created I've never tried. This is a warm neutral palette, but many people did not like the layout here. They felt as if it would be pretty difficult to make a complete look, but I personally think the colors here are beautiful, and now that I have more talent and more skills than when I first started, seeing the colors jumbled up like this really doesn't affect me much, but I can understand why other people would just want it, you know, straight across, one even row, maybe a few rows, but everything being in sync, because one, it brings the price down. I'm quite sure that they had to pay a little more to get this custom mode where things were switched out. But looking at it now and realizing I've never used this palette but had intentions on doing it, all of a sudden makes me feel a lot crazier about complaining about palettes I haven't received yet. And I think this may be the same way because I bought this during a half off sale. the Eyescream Palette. Truth be told, the only reason I bought this palette was because I'm a completionist and I just didn't want this one palette to be the one I didn't have. Because if you look here, she got a plastic film too. And the reason behind that is because these look like pastel colorful shades. I like dark jewel tone shades, and these little icy pinks, icy greens, icy purples, they don't tickle my fancy in the slightest, honey. And just looking at it now, it looked like the formula is nice. I trust Dose of Color, and I've never had a bad palette from them before. But it just, the names is cute. I'm sure the quality is cute, but this is one of those palettes I'm going to have to force myself to use because I don't get any inspiration from it. I'm just glad I have it because it's Dose of Colors. And the next two palettes I picked up were on the half off sale. And that first one being the Mickey palette, second being the Minnie palette. And y'all gonna chew my head off again because these are two that once again have that plastic film in there. Mickey, let me take that film off for you. This is what the Mickey palette looks like. This one comes with 6 shades and a highlighter. Move the film off this one. And the Minnie shade as well has 6 shades, but this one has a blush. For a while, Disney just seemed to be collabing with everybody. And I gathered these for a couple reasons. One, Mickey and Minnie are just classic cartoon characters. Like, even if you don't like animations and things like that, you've probably heard of Mickey and Minnie and seen memorabilia that you thought was cute. And although I think Disney makes some really nice things, I don't see myself as one of those die-hard fans as many other people in my family are, especially when it comes to Mickey Mouse. But when the Mickey palette first dropped, the collection came out and I didn't quite have the funds for things then, and I'm someone who likes to do a whole collection. And because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do the palette, the lipsticks, and the gloss, I decided to try to wait and save my money. By the time I had the money for it, this had sold out. I was so bitter and so salty behind that, I decided I didn't want nothing. I didn't want none of the glosses, none of the lipsticks. I didn't care. I was done. Screw the whole collection. Screw Mickey. Screw Disney. I was through. Come next year, they dropped the Minnie collection. Same thing. Glosses, lipsticks, palette. And it sat there and I said, nope. It's cute and I want it, but nope. If I can't have Mickey too, I don't want none of it. They a matching set and I want the matching set. I was through. I didn't want it. Then they did that half off sale. And I'm looking at that Minnie palette like, ooh, I want it at half price. I know she'd be worth it. Just go ahead and get it, Torrence. And I saw the Mickey was back in stock. I said, throw them in the cart, baby. Here's the card. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Give them here, give them here. So now I got them both. And I truly only have them for collector's purposes. But I think one day I'm going to use them just because they are beautiful. And I think all shades in both palettes will complement each other. So I think I'm going to find me a friend and see if we can both do a competition on using one palette each and seeing who can come up with a prettier look. That just seems like more fun than just doing your makeup and going on with a review. Next up, a palette I actually did use. Y'all not going to get on my head about this one. The Dose of Color ILUVSARAHI Palette. And of course, the reason this one got used real fast, real quick, shimmery green. Baby, you know I love me a green shade, and this has a black shade in here that has a bunch of reflective particles here. Like, that is in no means just a plain matte black. That is a matte black with sparkle, and for me personally, a lot of people don't like those type of shades, but I'm someone who honestly appreciates them because it lets me know I can tap my brush off and knock those sparkles off, or I can keep them there and have a shimmery matte black smoky eye if I choose to. So I have this palette, love it, love ILUVSARAHI's work, so this was one that I easily had to go for. The next one here, probably their most famous and most iconic one, Friendcation Palette, and look at the glow on her. But the magic comes right here. This, as you can see, it has the reflective covering here because I've never used this palette, but I got good news for that. Hold on, y'all gonna give me a second because I don't want to just take this off here because I've never used this palette. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back. So the reason I never used this one is because Ulta actually had a half off sale and I bought it back up because at the time I was doing freelance work and it was a color that every time I wore it, everybody wanted to know what it was, everybody wanted to use it. So I bought it back up because I truly thought it would sell out and I never wanted to be without that color. And this is where I put it in this ginormous palette for my birthday last year. I made for myself. As you can see, I depotted a lot of different brands, but my Dose of Color Friendcation palette is right here. These two rows are the Dose of Color, and this one particular shade is my absolute favorite. It's called Just a Kiss, and I truly believe I'm going to run out of this before the end of next year, and I'll always have this backup to help me with that. But I've used this palette, I believe, once before my birthday. I need to get another use of it in before this year is out. But this tends to be my travel palette here. This is by Adept Cosmetics, and I'll make sure I leave this link below. But I just wanted to show you where I keep my other Dose of Color palette. Because although he's not used, I do use the Friendcation palette. Now, for the last 6 palettes, these are all going to be the 5 pan palettes that we have here. They are all matte shades. And although Dose of Color has recently updated their packaging, I have them all here in the original packaging that they came in. And first up, we have the Baked Browns palette. And for each one of these that I have, I paid, I believe, full price for most of them, but I may have gotten some during the half off sale. But the one thing I know for sure is I got all of my Block Party shadows on the half off sale because I just personally didn't know if the formula would be worth it at the full price. But at half price, I was willing to take the chance, and they truly did show out, and I truly believe they are worth the money. And for each one of these that I have on the shelf, I keep a Block Party right next to it. And the first combo we have is the Baked Browns. Open this up for you, and oh, I've used this one. Should have known that. And this is what those 5 shades look like here. As you can see, a nice warm neutral everyday lovely palette here. And the shade that I find most beautiful with that, my favorite color, green, and that is this shade here, Leave Me Alone. This is the Baked Browns and the Leave Me Alone combo that I keep together. Next is going to be the Blushing Berries palette. This is probably the one that I use the absolute most. This is what those 5 matte shades look like here. And just the fact that that has that matte black means it's always going to grab my attention. And I like to pair this palette up with a single shade Sizzle. As you can see, they complement each other very well. Next up is the palette Marvelous Mauves. I've never actually used this palette because usually when I go for mauve shades, I go for my Melt Cosmetics She's in Parties palette. But seeing it now has definitely reminded me that I need to crack it open. This is what these 5 matte shades look like. And I like to pair this palette up with the single shade My Jam. And this looks like this will be a nice cool tone purple look. I can't wait to try this one out. Up next is the Pretty Cool palette. This is the one that I'm wearing today. This is what these 5 shades look like. And I like to pair this palette up with the single shade Tell Me More. Once again, the Tell Me More is the shade that I'm wearing today. Next up, we have the palette Sassy Siennas. And although the plastic isn't in this one, I know I've never used this because the day I was going to, I received an emergency phone call and literally had to run out the door. This is what these shades look like here. These palettes are really warm and peachy, leaning maybe even toward the orange side. And I'm going to pair this palette up with the single shade Encore. I just really believe this is going to be a nice warm neutral look, but it's going to be a little more bold than the Baked Browns palette for me. And this palette here is last but certainly not least. It is the Snow Angels palette. And the reason this is so dear to me is because it is the first product I've ever purchased from Dose of Colors. I had saw the 5 pan palettes for quite some time and never knew if it was worth jumping on the bandwagon. But once they came out with a colorful palette, And the limited edition palette, honey, they had me going. And these are the 5 shades here, honey. Bold, over the top. And I believe you can only get this now on the Dose of Colors website. I believe it completely sold out at Ulta, so I don't see it on that website anymore. The single shade that I pair it up with is Shall We Dance. Thing is, the shade Just a Kiss from the Friendcation palette is my absolute favorite, but I find this single shade Shall We Dance is what's closest to it, so I pair these two up because there aren't many colorful shades that can go with this 5-pan palette, but this Shall We Dance shade seems to go with any and everything. And with that being the last of the Dose of Color palette, we're going to call this an end for today's video. I hope you all truly enjoyed this video because for me, it was very calming and actually rather awakening for me to realize, Torrence, you know you have a lot of makeup and you know you don't quite get a chance to use everything you have. But to sit back and look at just this one brand and realize over half the items that you've purchased from this one brand have not been used. It's one thing to say I don't have a review for them because I just got my channel, but to say you have this much makeup sitting right here that you've never touched, it just almost instantly, it's like a slap in my own face to say, wait, you're out here spending money like this and you have products you haven't used. Stop worrying about what's new, what's on the market. Use what you have and appreciate what you have. And I think instead of doing one large collection video, I'm going to start doing more videos like this because this gave me a chance to sit back, calm down, stop thinking of those other products, and look at my collection and go, wait, you love that formula, you've never tried that color story, why not go ahead and give yourself a new experience with something you already have? Won't cost me no money, won't cost me no time, won't affect the environment because it's already here. So I'm going to start trying to make myself do a video like this every single week with a different brand to help me remind myself of exactly what is in my collection and also potentially help me get rid of some things because the idea of knowing I have this palette right here and to know I just don't have any idea of when I'm going to use it or when I want to use it makes you all of a sudden sit back and go, but you really paid for it though? You knew you wasn't going to like it, but just because you had everything else, you had to have this? That could have been some money in my savings account right there, but that's a whole nother issue. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel before you leave. And also leave me a comment down below letting me know if there was any particular product in this video that you would like a tutorial on. But I hope you all continue to practice, stay blessed, and until next time, bye YouTube.